emphysema. This disease is incurable and often fatal. It is brought on in large measure by the effects of air pollution in our country. Most of us Americans tend to dismiss air pollution as a phenomenon that causes a few eyes to smart in Los Angeles and produces unpleasant results on the New Jersey Turnpike. In fact, all of our major cities and many of our small ones suffer from some form of air pollution. Smog, soot, smoke in many colors, and carrying many poisons surround us constantly. Few of us are aware of any danger, but many toxic gases are invisible and odorless. Even though we may not notice, they are there. The atmosphere, the crucial layer that permits life on Earth, is proportionately no thicker than the skin of an apple. Its condition concerns us all.
At this very minute, in tens of thousands of communities across the nation, millions of Americans are unintentionally releasing chemical waste and dirt into the atmosphere. Obviously, the health and welfare of the American people must be protected against this harmful dirt and poisonous chemical being discharged into the very air we breathe. Yet, on the other hand, we cannot ignore another fact. The backbone of our economy, diversified industry of our great society, relies on the manufacturing processes that contribute to the pollution of our atmosphere. The problem that faces the Congress of the United States and the American people is how to provide for the ever-increasing economic growth of our nation without impairing the health and well-being of the people. There is no simple solution. We cannot blindly say no one can dump waste or dirt into the atmosphere, for each of us discharges waste to some extent in the normal processes of breathing, driving, cooking, smoking, or heating our homes.
America is beautiful. 100 years ago, 50 years ago, much more of it was beautiful than today. There weren't so many of us then, and half the people lived and worked on farms. In just a few years, Americans worked America. Our factories built machines to work the farms, and more of our people flocked to growing cities to work at making more and more of the hundreds of thousands of goods familiar to us today. Our towns felt the change. Los Angeles, a medium-sized city a little more than 20 years ago, is now among our largest. As a result, we enjoy a standard of living that is one of the marvels of the earth, and more of us are living the urban life. In the United States today, we consume more than half of all the manufactured goods available to the world. In the period between 1930 and 1960, just 30 years, the population of our country increased by half. The number of automobiles on our roads doubled. Our investment in industrial plants and equipment went up 500%, and our output of power to keep all this going rose 600%. The great wealth of our nation today is based on a superabundance of mechanical power, generated almost entirely by the burning of vast amounts of fossil fuels, oil, gas, and coal. In becoming the Earth's greatest producer and greatest consumer, we have also provided ourselves with by far the largest amount of waste to be disposed of. As our ever-increasing mechanical might continues to expand and our use of automobiles grows ever more intense, many more of our rural communities will see the specter of dirty air darken their skies. Every single item that we make and use creates some waste material. Since nothing ever burns completely, many more of these wastes than we suspect are thrown up into our precious air. Some pollution of the air occurs in nature, but such events are rare and do little harm. Dispersal and dilution of contaminants is the only way the air has to rid itself of poisons. When we look at the sky, the amount of air seems boundless, but actually, the part of the Earth's atmosphere capable of sustaining life is only 12 miles high, and only a fraction of that is normally available to us. People and industries are not spread evenly around the globe as the air is. More than half of our people live on less than 1% of the land, crowding the air. Then topography and weather conditions can further cut down the amount of air available at any given time. It is man who discovered that the seeming magic of combustion could be harnessed and put to work. And ever since, the air has been serving as a lofty wastebasket. In the last 200 years especially, as his ingenuity found more uses for the almost limitless power stored in the earth as coal and oil, he raced forward, thinking only of the goods produced by the ever more familiar smokestacks. Electric power, steel, copper, coal to fire all the furnaces, lumber, paper, more fuels made from oil, medicines and plastics, all the wonders of modern chemistry, fertilizers for his food crops, heat for his homes, goods from all over the earth brought to his door. Mobility for himself and his family. All this time, we were so busy producing and enjoying what we produced, we paid little attention to what else the smokestacks were giving us. Hydrocarbon vapors, oxides of iron, oxides of nitrogen, oxides of sulfur, always present in the fossil fuels, oil and coal. Near the mines, sulfur in the waste piles burns night and day by spontaneous combustion. Most of these substances are released into the air in urban centers, where people are crowded together and adding to the congestion in the atmosphere with municipal and apartment incinerator ash, heating and cooking smoke. Even in the suburbs, where life is roomier, pollution can be a problem. Some pollution occurs without combustion, too, mostly in the form of dust. As our country grows and builds, the air must carry off waste from our scientific, agriculture, and building materials. All of these substances being poured into the air are solids, tiny particles, hundreds and thousands of tons of them. We call them soot. But there are other irritants entering our air that we can't see. A great variety of invisible gases combining and reacting in the air to form new compounds, some known, such as sulfuric acid, many more unknown. A major offender is the fumes from our automobiles. Every 1,000 cars creeping through jammed urban and suburban streets discharge into the air more than 3 tons of carbon monoxide, unseen, often unsuspected, and poisonous. Automobiles also release into the air hydrocarbons and oxides of nitrogen, which under the influence of sunlight produce photochemical smog. Americans are getting to know this phenomenon as increasing use of automobiles has caused it to appear, not just in Los Angeles, but also in our East Coast cities, where it is one of several contributors to the pollution problem. Smog forms right in the air, as you can see when the camera compresses the period from dawn to midday into about a minute. Our atmosphere contains a variety of chemical compounds released from a great number of diverse sources of air pollution. Many of these compounds are toxic, corrosive, and irritating. Under the influence of sunlight, warm temperatures, and water vapor, the polluting substances react with each other in the air to produce new compounds, more destructive and irritating than their original components. Photochemical smog is the most notorious chemical reaction produced in situations of air pollution. Smog occurs when the ultraviolet rays in sunlight set off reactions between hydrocarbons and nitrogen oxides. Gasoline-powered motor vehicles are the major source of hydrocarbons in the atmosphere. Oxides of nitrogen result from nearly all combustion processes. Normally, the air becomes cooler as it rises, allowing warm surface air to restrict the air's capacity to remove contaminating agents. A layer of warm air will trap cooler air beneath it. When such an inversion of the normal height temperature relation, the base of the inversion layer acts as a lid over the community. This can happen at any season of the year in almost every community in the country. In addition, varying factors of weather and geography may restrict horizontal air movement. Under such conditions, a heavily populated area can be boxed in for several days. Pollution levels then become intense, causing marked increases in irritation and damage. Dirty air is a problem most of us have ignored, but it affects the lives of many of us, even those who live far from the industrial centers. A small city, typical of thousands in our country, is Missoula, Montana. Missoula has only two sources of industrial pollution, a sawmill and a paper plant. But the town lies in a valley and is subject to frequent temperature inversions. As a result, wastes remain at breathing level. Reduced visibility is one of the effects of air pollution that we encounter most frequently. Yet we seldom call it that. Haze, we say, when we can't see clearly a building just a few blocks away. No wonder we can't see very well when 640 tons of soot fall on New York City every day. On the road, air pollution, alias haze, presents an immediate hazard to our lives. Poor visibility is a contributing cause of many accidents. Again, this is not just a city problem. Our rural areas, too, wear the shroud of air pollution. One example is Central Florida, where fluorides given off in the processing of phosphates for fertilizer have damaged the citrus and cattle industries that form the mainstay of the local economy.
You can see here that we have the typical leaf patterns, Ed, that fluorine causes when fluorine comes in and affects tender growth. Mr. Lightfoot, how much would you say the phosphate fluorine air pollution has caused damage to production in this growth?
Well, I think, Paul, it'd be conservative to say that on the average the loss has been about 40%. There have been years when it appears to me that it's been as high as 50%.
Fluorides in the dust given off by phosphates also produce the disease fluorosis in the cattle. Bony growths develop along the skeleton, causing lameness and finally death. What kills the plants also dirties our buildings, our windows, and our homes.
The chrome fixtures in my bathroom. I'm kind of ashamed when somebody comes to visit. They think that I'm a sloppy housewife. All the chrome is eaten out and it's just black. The shower rods, well, even inside the bathtub has a discolored look, kind of yellowish. And gee, I scrub that every week, sometimes even oftener. Can't seem to get anything done. My only complaint is the air. It's so dirty. I have to wash my children's clothes so many times a day. They never seem to be clean. And it all seems to be coming from over there in Jersey. We just take a walk on the promenade or a walk down the street, and their hands get dirty, their faces get dirty, and house clean is absolutely impossible.
Damaged plants dirty clothes, and more than that. Myriads of pollutants. Every day, every year, stone crumbles. Even when pollution is less serious, it is disagreeable to live with. There are odors and smoke in places where you would hope to be free of them. Small towns in Maine, mountain valleys in West Virginia, the desert of Arizona.
I'm Dr. Richard J. Reese, Director of the Air Pollution Program for the Colorado State Department of Public Health. For a good many years, people in Colorado felt that the Denver area would not have a serious air pollution problem. It was because we were up high, we had lots of wind as we do today, we had lots of sunshine and few clouds. However, we have found recently that because of the altitude, we have a lot of radiation and a lot of thermal inversions. Also, because we are at the foot of a range of mountains, we get lots of downwind winds in the morning and upslope winds in the afternoon, which simply blows the air pollution out and then back again. At the same time, we have had a great increase in the number of people in the Denver area, in the number of automobiles, in the use of power, and in the development of industry. As a result, over the past few years, air pollution has appeared in Denver and is becoming extremely serious. Many days we are unable to see our mountains at all.
If air pollution is the price of prosperity, we Americans are paying a big bill. $11 billion worth of damage every year due to air pollution, in crop losses, in wasted fuels, damage to monuments, corroded metal, increased consumer cleaning bills, customer and taxpayer costs for the cleaning of buildings, replanting of landscaping. And that is just damage to things, plants, animals. The toll in human illness we cannot calculate.
Even in a small town, in a rural area, in the wide open spaces, doctors receive a fair number of complaints from their patients about the air. Those of us who are particularly interested in heart and lung troubles, for instance, receive common complaints about increased irritation, increased cough, increased breathlessness on days of high visible pollution. For this reason, the medical community has been interested in a report of the State Board of Health quantitating the pollution characteristics of Missoula air. To our surprise, we learned that Missoula air contains hydrocarbons as well as particulate contaminants, which in many respects exceeded those found in Chicago, Detroit, Los Angeles, and many of the industrial centers.
Sometimes when air stagnation causes dense pollution to persist, the result is more than illness. Such large-scale killer smogs are rare, but respiratory illness continues to increase, especially in areas with chronic air pollution problems. The most frequent victims of the dirty air syndrome of respiratory ailments are our older citizens. Age and years of exposure to airborne toxins have made them especially susceptible. Treatment can ease the discomfort, but chronic asthma, bronchitis, and emphysema can seldom be cured. And the very young, our children, are often targets of diseases related to pollution. Their young bodies, not yet fully developed, don't have the defenses against illness that adult bodies do. Asthma and bronchitis keep them from play and childhood's joys. Many of the substances thrown into our atmosphere by the ton each day have been found to cause cancer in laboratory animals when applied in concentrated form. For healthy people, the effects of a lifetime of exposure to so-called low levels of toxicity are unknown, and many jobs require exposure to much higher levels of pollution. Steps can be taken to curb air pollution. Some things are already being done. In Los Angeles, where a large-scale air pollution control program has been launched, fuels containing sulfur are banned during the smog season when inversion layers are common. In other parts of our country, More efficient combustion practices and electrostatic filters to remove solids while they are still inside the stacks have both proved helpful. This Indiana steel mill is going full blast, but the only clue is a full parking lot. Some communities, Pittsburgh, Chicago, and St. Louis, for example, which acted in the past to curb the black coal smoke that caused street lamps to be lighted at noon, are now dealing with the more subtle and complex problems of modern air pollution. Some waste items that are commonly burned need to be disposed of by other methods. To reduce the poisons released by automobiles still on the roads, the auto industry since 1963 has installed devices to control crankcase vapors. But tailpipe control is still the great problem of automotive pollution. Automobile makers are still searching for even better ways to reduce the harmful emission from our cars, as the federal government concerns itself with national standards for controlling automotive exhausts. All of these methods aim at preventing harmful substances from entering the air. It is impractical to clean air after it's dirty, as we do with our water, unless we are all to start wearing gas masks. Devices to keep pollutants out of the air cost money, but it is more expensive in the long run to allow pollution to continue. Ensuring that controls are put to work on all sources of air pollution requires massive support by citizens and officials alert to the dangers in the air. Other cities have been successful in getting control action started. In Chicago, county employees check daily the amount of pollution in the air as one step toward enforcing corrective measures. The state of Pennsylvania is one of several that maintain air sampling equipment as part of their effort to reduce pollution. The U.S. Public Health Service, under federal clean air laws, is conducting research aimed at discovering just how dangerous air pollution is through eye irritation experiments and animal exposure tests. Since winds and air currents don't observe state or local boundaries, the federal government is making efforts to help control interstate pollution all over the country, between Gary, Indiana, and Chicago more.
As chairman of the Special Subcommittee on Air and Water Pollution, and with Senator Boggs, I've had an opportunity to study the air pollution problem in great detail. Since 1963, in extensive hearings, we've had an opportunity to study this problem across the country, to determine how effective current problems to deal with it have been, and what needs to be done in terms of additional legislation. That's right. The legislation recommended by you and the committee has been totally bipartisan. When the nation's economic growth and the welfare of the people are at stake, the members of both parties agree on the need for action. As you and I have learned, Senator, air pollution is both a threat and a challenge to all of us. We must use the information we have gathered and the control equipment we have developed to prevent further contamination of the air we breathe. Yes, and our investigations have shown that the cost of managing our country's air resources is high. Communities cannot fight air pollution on their own. The wind does not respect state, city, or county boundaries. There is a need for concrete action against air pollution, especially in our urban and industrial areas, and the need is now. Our hopes for the future quality of American life depend upon effective action.
Our communities can bring air pollution under control. They can reduce the load of contaminants that our automobiles, our industries, and our domestic chimneys now spew into the atmosphere. Local and state governments must take the initiative. The Congress, through current and future legislation, can and will move to assist local authorities with financial grants, continued research, and enforcement measures when necessary. Nothing is more vital to life than air. A man can live days without water, weeks without food, but only a few minutes without air. Unless this fouling of our environment is curbed now, the problem, already serious, will become critical. The toll in damages and lives will climb steadily higher, the cleanup steadily more expensive. The wind will blow. Whether it blows ill or well is up to us.
I propose that we increase the beauty of America and end the poisoning of our rivers and the air that we breathe. We will increase research to learn much more about the control of pollution. We will seek legal power to prevent pollution of our air and water before it happens.